Howdy folks, it's Uncle Bumble. It's been a while. Recently did a trip with the Modern Refugee. Some of you might have seen that video I posted. A couple people had asked me how it went, so I figured I'd do a video on it and let you guys know what I learned about said trip. So it was in the mid to low 20s most of the time. I think that actually the first morning we went out there it started out in the low teens. Modern Refugee got out there around 9 o'clock. I think he had did some rabbit hunting before I got there. Possibility of having a little rabbit while we were doing the overnight. But I got there at 11, and then it was a little after 9:30 when we left the next day. So he was out there for over 24 hours. I was out there kind of close. A lot of people had said that we were going to freeze. I was far from it, especially the first day when we were out there walking around, collecting some firewood, splitting firewood. Most of the time that first day while we were doing that, we were I had a t-shirt and then two basically long sleeve shirts on. One was kind of like a thermal, but Modern Refugee, I think, had just like a t-shirt on and a sweatshirt. So, like I said, far from freezing. So it was pretty decent weather. Like I had said in the video, we had recently gotten some snow. Like 2 days prior, we had no snow, and then we had gotten some rain, slush mix the one day, and then it changed over to snow. So we had what you'd seen there on the ground. We had cut all of our firewood, like I mentioned, about a month earlier, just so that we didn't spend our whole time out there. Cutting and processing firewood, and then so we had a little bit of a fight to get it to burn because most of it was wet and chunks of ice, froze onto it. So once we had gotten it going, and you had seen how in the video I had lined the outside of the fire pit with it to dry the wood out enough to where we could throw it on and get it to burn good. So it was a bit of a struggle, but once we started doing that, we didn't have any. It was not a big issue. They say you can judge your bushcraft ability by how well you sleep. And so that was kind of a mixed bag. Neither one of us were cold. Neither one of us were getting any heat from the fire either, because the fire being down in that pit was just kind of radiating the heat straight upwards. So really it was more of a test of our sleeping systems. We both had the MSS, the military sleep system, for bags, but underneath that was where we differed. I have an 1.5-inch thick self-inflating Thermarest pad. I don't remember the model name, but it's got like a 2.2 or 2.1 R value for it, so that it's kind of, I think it says it's 4 seasons. It wasn't, it worked for me all right. And then I have one of those cheap foam pads from Walmart. I put underneath there just to kind of help protect my Thermarest, so I didn't have to worry about anything puncturing it from underneath. And the extra padding I figured wouldn't hurt any. And then in between my bivy and the bags, the black and green bags there, I had this. It's kind of like Reflexix, I think it's called, but it was out of a food package that we got, so it's got some funky shape to it, but I just put it underneath basically where my upper body or my core would be to reflect some of that heat back. I don't know if it did anything or not. It's the first time I've ever been out, but when we broke camp where I was laying, you could see where I was melted the snow a little bit. Not too bad. There was still a good 1/2 inch of snow underneath me where the pressure points are, like my hips, my shoulder, and that. When Fred or Modern Refugee broke down his setup, he had melted all the snow out from underneath him. He was down to bare ground. He had tarp underneath him. The same thing that I had there, but it was bigger. It was two like windscreen versions of that put together, so his was solid from head to toe. And then I don't know I don't think he had anything else underneath him except for the bottom part of his bags. So yeah, he was melting some snow and he was sleeping on some lumpy ground. Uh, Neither one of us were cold. Like the only time I was cold is my toes were a little cold sitting by the fire because, like I said, it was in the ground. You had to put your feet on the edges of the fire to get any heat into your feet. And my feet had been sweating during the day, so my socks were wet. Um, Once I get in the bag, I was fine until I went to lay on my back, and then my toes would press the insulation of the bag uh, down and press the insulation down, and then my toes would get a little cold. I rolled back onto my side, and I was fine. So that was the only time that I was ever really cold. But we both woke up. It was 3:30, 3:20ish. The fire had gone down to coals, and I wasn't cold. I had to use the restroom and just sore. I was quite sore. So we sat around. I got the fire going, built the fire back up again, threw a bunch of wood in there. I laid back down probably 3:45. Modern refugee wasn't sure if he was going to lay back down because he was so sore, but he said he did end up laying back down. What he had done was broke his kit apart. He ended up laying on the bivy in the green bag, and then used the black bag kind of like a top quilt. Um, Basically, it's the same thing. It's basically like a blanket, but a lot of the top quilts will have like a foot box where it's sewed together. So he used that. He used it that way, and he said he got a couple more hours of sleep. It was more comfortable because if you never slept in a mummy bag, if you like to toss and turn, it's not really that comfortable. It's that easy to do that. And I didn't want to roll onto my left hand side, which I normally sleep on, because the zipper opening would then be behind me, and I would be breathing into my sleep system because I was covered right up, head and everything, and I didn't want to have all my breath going into there, because then you'll get all that condensation in there, and there's a good chance you'll get cold then from just all that moisture being in there and losing your insulation. So I slept most of the night on my right hand side, and when I woke up again at 6:30 in the morning, I wouldn't be surprised if the modern refugee had kicked the shit out of me in the middle of the night, because that's the way I felt. I was sore. That being said, definitely go out and do it again. I don't know what I would do to my sleep system yet to improve that. I haven't really figured that out, but I've got some time to look into it. I do know from our trip in the spring that sleeping in the mummy bag in a hammock is no problem. It was really comfortable, but when I was laying on the ground, wasn't quite the answer for me. So, well, that's one thing that I definitely would like to try to improve. My other key takeaway was it gets dark early in the wintertime, so you end up sitting by the fire for a little while longer than you would during the summer months. And so by 9:30, my lower back was pretty sore from sitting on the stumps or the benches that we had made. I needed some sort of back support, so that's pretty much why I call it quits. 9:30, 9:45, something like that. Laying down on the ground was going to be more comfortable than sitting on those benches. So next time we'll have to come up with some sort of chairs with back support. But other than that, I would definitely be up to going out and doing this again. Modern Refugee did all the cooking, and if you guys watch his channel, you know that he's a pretty good cook. If you guys think it looks good, I'm here to tell you it does. It tastes good. Had plenty of meals from the Modern Refugee, so I was pretty spoiled. But since he was doing all the cooking, it felt like I didn't have much gear with me. I had some snacks, but I brought my own water. But yeah, really, I just didn't have the food that you would normally have for every meal. So I felt like I was shy on gear, but in reality, when I had it laid all out, getting ready to load it in the vehicle, there was quite a bit of stuff there. It's wintertime, you get a lot of bulk really in your gear. I had more than what I probably could have carried on me. If I had to, I could have made it work. That's for definite. But having those sleds, just so useful. Besides, being able to carry extra gear in once you get there. We didn't have to, but the wood that we did have there, we hauled around in Modern Refugee sled. He had cut it, and we drug it over next to our campsite with a sled. It's so convenient to have those. You just carry so much gear. But of the gear I had, I didn't have a lot that I didn't use. Usually when I come back from a trip like that, I'll sort my gear out, like I've said before, into 3 piles. Stuff I used, stuff I didn't use, stuff I didn't use, but I'm going to take anyways. I don't remember having anything in the stuff that I didn't use pile. So there was stuff that I didn't use, but I'm going to take anyways. I did have an extra tarp. Tarp and some poles that came with said tarp, but I'd probably take it again. Like, it doesn't weigh much. Things drag so easy in that sled, so it was kind of nice not having a bunch of extra stuff. I know Modern Refugee just grabbed his bug out bag instead of breaking it down and then having to put stuff back, take stuff out, put stuff back in, that kind of stuff. And so he had a lot of digging around to find things, and it's just, sometimes it's nice to not have all that stuff to keep track of. The more stuff you have, the more mentally draining it is sometimes. At least I think so. But yeah, so I was pretty spoiled on this trip, to be honest with you. Like I had said, Modern Refugee did the cooking. He had brought all the stuff in, stuff from his garden, or stuff he had made himself, like the sausage of stuff that he made himself, the butter he made himself. So yeah, we ate good. Camp's dishes are always pretty easy to do. A little bit of water, let them boil out. So split plates, cook off. Have you guys seen the wood plates in my video? The other thing that I learned from this camping trip, it's more to do with the video making part of it. I enjoy going back and watching some of my trips. It's like going back and looking at pictures. I know my wife gets great enjoyment from watching my spring camping trip where I fall out of my hammock, and I'm thinking that 50% of the views of that video are probably from her, but hey, whatever. As long as I can make her laugh, right? But just getting a light to do some more recording at night, maybe setting the camera up while I'm just setting up shelters or whatnot while we're just doing basic camp chores. I just think to myself, nobody's going to want to watch that, but I sit there and watch other people do it. So I don't know, I could always throw it in, record it at least, and if I don't like it, I can delete it when I get home, right? So, but well, other than that, it was a good time. Fred and I are talking about our next trip, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I had said to him while we were out there, it's like, I'm kind of sad. It's kind of like Christmas morning, you've been waiting for it to show up, and now that it's here, it's what do you got to look forward to? So, but that's all I got for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like and share as you guys see fit, and see you next time. Howdy folks, Uncle Bumble here. You're going to be in this, huh?